Ago to Chodesh Rabbi Sai. Beautiful picture here of Yehuda Mandelbaum. That's Simi Mandelbaum, very good chaver of mine from Chicago. It took my husband and I 20 years of marriage to finally go away together without our 7 children. Kind of hard. But no way is he on vacation from the Daf. Givaldi. Dear Belly. So I'm not sure if I read this one or not. This came up as unread. So I'm going to read it again. In case I read it, forgive me. Unfortunately, I was not able to make it this Shabbaton due to family financial reasons. I'm now sitting on Sunday night watching the recording of the event, YouTube, with tears in my eyes. It sounds very familiar, but I don't think, He's watching the recording of the Shabbaton and he has tears in his eyes. What an inspiring and beautiful event. I joined with Daf Beis Kiddushin after around 8 years of not opening up Gemara. And this is the first siyum I've made since I was in the Beis Medrash many years ago. I just thought it was interesting that yesterday I read an email from somebody that I didn't open up his email in 2 years, just opened up yesterday, read it. And he also said it was his first siyum and he's 36 years old. And I'm jumping, ADD, to the next piece from that guy that I read. He writes back, wow, no words. I started again the daf today, Baruch Hashem. So if that was the tachlis of me reading that email that he got back on the bandwagon, thank you, Rebelli, for the uplifting words. I'm getting back on the train today, Emir Hashem. But anyways, back to this one. Another one I didn't open up. And he says, this is his first siyum he made. Didn't open up a Gemara in 8 years. I went through the cycle of believing all the Eitzahar excuses that I listed in the shir yesterday until I finally said enough is enough and joined. Joining the Daf has truly changed me, the way I view myself and my outlook on day-to-day life. I know you get hundreds of these emails, all similar messages, and maybe can become immune to them, but just know behind every email is a person with a whole life that you are affecting. You can change a person's shalom bayis for the better. You can change a person's outlook on his goal in life, all through your limud Torah. I'm just zchusim or what your other Bava will look like. I want to say thank you for what you do. And in Hashem, to join the shir in person next time I come to Yisrael, R Eli from Brooklyn. Rabbi Isai, good news. Very, very good news. So, like the highways in those that go from Tel Aviv to Yerushalayim, people say that it's a way for us to prepare for Mashiach. All of a sudden, these beautiful highways, Mashiach. Why was the largest cruise ship in the world created and was brought into use yesterday? Rabbi Isai, here it is. It just came online yesterday, and we are booking it. It's not large enough, but it's pretty big. Only the guys from Brachas. The guys from Brachas and those who. It's a brand new ship yesterday, just yesterday. The largest one that was ever created. You want to know why? I'm saying. They are booking it. I just got this today. Oh, there was another video, but it didn't download well. We'll have to show it tomorrow from the latest talks. Okay, so you know what? Unfortunate. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to jump right into the sponsors. My boy said there are eight, not 7, 8 sponsors of the month. A tremendous yeshukayach to each and every one of them. It's huge. Shut off. Oh, I don't know. It popped off. Okay, here we go. The Masechta. The Koilo of the month is sponsored by Anonymous from Lakewood, Refuah, Tinoik B'Malka. The Masechta is sponsored for the unity of Am Yisrael. The Paras HaChodesh. Yosef and Chaya sorrowful, the zchusim that come from supporting the limud Torah. The Paras HaChodesh, Yedidya Pereira. You can't stare at me like that while I'm reading these sponsors. Okay, good. Yedidya Pereira, lezchut zivug hagam b'karav, Chana Rocha bas Michal, Chayim David ben Shulamis, and Shoshana Bracha bas Shulamis. Parnas HaChodesh, Rav Noam, Avi, Gary, Yosef, for your relentless commitment to MDY. Parnas HaChodesh, Linishmas Zechrya ben Moishel, Linishmas Chaya bas Yosef. Parnas HaChodesh. Ahron Fraiman, it should be a zchus to Rav Eli for continuously at the Shema teaching Torah to Klal Yisroel. Amen. Parnas HaChodesh. Lili Nishmas. Kol Chaya Leitzahal Shenaflu Al Kiddush Hashem. The Parnas HaChodesh in memory of Binyomin Airley from Anonymous in Manchester who joined the Shir in the beginning of Saita. Parnas HaChodesh. Lili Nishmas. The yortzeites of our fathers Shlomo ben Yitzchak Isaac Zechariah Levracha Saul Birnbaum Niftar Ches Shvat. And Binyomin Isaac ben Tzvi Hirsha Kohen Zechariah Levracha Ben Gross Niftar Tazayin Shvat. Parnas HaYoim. Mordechai Sapazik Nezich Nishmas is Rosh Hashiva Rav Chaim Leib Epstein Zechatzak Levracha Rav Chaim Leib ben Rav Yosef David Levi the Rosh Hashiva Yeshiva Zichron Melech, also a close Talmud of Rav Aaron Kodesh Zechatzak Levracha. May the Neshama have an Aliyah. That was the place that we used to daven Friday night when I lived for a bunch of years in Kensington. So I got to know him. I saw him a lot. The Parnas HaYoim, Yoni Weiss, Linishmas, Toiva Bas Yisrael. Parnas HaYoim, Linishmas, Reuven ben Rib Avrom Alevi, Levin, whose yortzeit is today, means Neshama have an aliyah by his grandson, Peretz Chaim Levin. It just seems like a day doesn't go by that we don't hear his name. Peretz Chaim Levin. I even had somebody it became like somebody took a picture of him, sent it to me of him at the Bells Expo, standing there and screaming over all the loud noise and trying to get people to join the shir. And I didn't even show it because it's like, we should show it. David Walken from Ahuva Liba Bas Chanariva, who's having surgery today, should have a refuah shlema. The art of the month, anonymous for the zchus, for an easy childbirth, for his daughter and a healthy baby. So Rabbi Sai, I have a few questions over here. Some of them seem silly. Some of them are gewaldic. So this was a question asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky. So a guy was at the beach and his yarmulke fell into the water and disappeared. And then he wanted to eat a cookie. So his friend gave him his yarmulke and he looked at the inside of the yarmulke and he got grossed out. He said, I'm not going to put this thing on my head. You know that didn't smell good, it didn't look good. So he wanted to know if he puts his yarmulke like this, like really high up above his head, is he yaitze? Oh, lovud, very good. But there's a much cooler way to say that it's a good yarmulke wearing, based on today's sugya. Kaluta kemisha hunchadamya. When something flies through the air, do we view it halachically as if it landed over a certain area? Okay, here's another question. If I ask Mendy Auerbach, what's your father's name? Is he allowed to say Harav Agoin Reb and say his actual name? Or that's also part of the Isser of saying your father's name. That's another shayla. And here's a tough one. If you didn't learn the sugya, how is it possible for you to buy something on Shabbos, and because you bought it, you're chayiv misa? As you buy something, you're chayiv misa. You did something that when you buy with money, you're not chayiv misa. Huh? Leiby, you learned the sugya? So I said, don't answer you. Huh? People that know Shas, they're not quoting me ksubis now. Okay, so says, very good. So we're holding here Daf Ayin Amud Aleph on the top. The Gemara is going to shoot out 7 halachas, one after another, in regard to power of attorney. Power of attorney. That's it. So this is the sugya of power of attorney. It's not exactly here in Israel when you have to take your car for a test every year. Once a year, every car has to go through a test. In America, I don't know if they have this. Every single, they do. They have the smog. You're right. But over here, they make it difficult for you to let somebody else bring your car in. I go through this every single, if anybody brings, you have to bring your Tudat Zehut, and if not, you have to do a power of attorney. But that's not the power of attorney that we're talking about. We're talking about a power of attorney that the guy goes to court for you, and he actually, if he wins, he might be able to take it for himself. He has some sort of ownership in that, whatever it is. So could you do a power of attorney on metaltalin, on a car? On a piece of real estate, yes. What about a piece of metaltalin, on movable objects? So the first halacha we're going to learn, here it is. Here's the list. We'll go through it real quickly. And our does say there's no power of attorney when it comes to movable objects, metaltalin. However, if you're going after your car, let's say, and nobody's denying the fact that you're the owner, then there is power of attorney. So you could have power of attorney for your smog test or whatever you want to call it, because there's no fight. However, the power of attorney, halacha number 3, and just the Gemara shoots it out one after another, boom, 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 so it can get confusing. Not confusing, it's like, it's hard to hold cup. So I'm putting it all down. Power of attorney must have the language in it that says that if this agent that's your attorney, if he wins, he could get to keep at least some of it. Abaye says even if it's only a quarter, it's a small amount, it doesn't have to be the entire, but he has some skin in the game, so to speak. Ameimer says, therefore, if you write such a language that he has something in it, then if he grabs the entire thing, he could steal it from you. Rav Ashi says, not true. This agent is only an agent. He's only a shliach, and a shliach doesn't get anything here, so he can't grab it. And the final halacha is, no, he's not an agent. He's actually a partner. When you give a power of attorney, it becomes your partner. And because it becomes a partner, he can take 50%. Okay, now let's see inside. Amin Arda, so that's Chazara. And that goes all the way, that takes us to the Mishnah, these 7 halachas. Amin Arda, like Asvinin Urkiso Amitaltale. You don't write a power of attorney, and again, it's not literally like we call it a power of attorney like today. A stronger one, as we'll see, on metaltalin. I'll explain to you. You explain to me. I'll explain to you. Like we learned yesterday. That's why the sugya comes over here. It's right after the sugya of Rabbi Yochanan. The case that we had yesterday of a guy that steals a sheep, and he cannot make it into a carbon. Why? Because he's a ganav, it's not his. The owner can't make it into a carbon. Why? Because it's not in his possession. Both cannot make that animal hegdish. So Taisus over here says a beautiful chiddush that we didn't know yesterday. Says Taisus, this is halacha by a ganav. A ganav, you cannot make something in his possession, you can't make it hegdish, because it's not in your possession, and he's fighting you, he took it from you. What if you gave your sheep to your friend to watch for a day? Could you make it hegdish? Huge chiddush, says Taisus, yes. This that Rabbi Yochanan says you can't make something hegdish because it's not in your possession, it only applies to somebody that took it against your will. But if you gave it to somebody, and he's holding it for you, so it's as if it's in your possession, and you can be magdish it. And therefore, our sugya over here is talking about this guy is fighting you. He's saying it's his, you're saying it's yours, and you're making a power of attorney. You don't want to fight this guy, so you get somebody that's a lawyer or a guy that knows how to fight. So, since it's metaltalin, you can't do that because it's not in your possession. You can't make him power of attorney. It's not in your possession because he stole from you. Some say Amri Naharda, and some say in the name of Naharda. The kafre, when the guy is denying it in Bezdin, there's a true kfira in Bezdin, then there's no urkasa, there's no power of attorney. Time of the kafre, the mechzik is shikra. Why? Because you're giving power of attorney, you're telling the Zaydim here, sign over here that car is mine. But Shimon is saying the car is his. You guys are fighting over it. So you can't sign a document, have 2 people sign a document, oh, that's your car. It's not your car, maybe it's his car. It looks like they're lying. So maybe we don't sign such a document. If there's no argument, you could have a power of attorney. If it doesn't say this lashon, go ahead and fight this. And if you win, you'll take it to yourself. It's 0 should be 0. It needs to show that you have some skin in the game. What did I say? No, chas v'shalom. Let's be mishasha. My taima mishum domalei heich Lav bal dvarim didiyat. Because the other guy, the defendant, whatever you want to call him, the other guy, the guy that you're suing, he'll say, I don't know who you are. Who are you? Why are you talking to me? I have nothing to do with you. I know the owner of the car. You're not the owner of the car. I'm not going to schmooze with you at all. Omer Abaya. You see what's going on here? It's one halacha after another halacha. It doesn't really have to say that you have all the skin in the game. As long as you have some skin in the game, since you have the right to sue this guy in court for your half, for your quarter, so therefore I could say the entire, I'm going to court about the whole car. Why? Because half the car is mine, and that's enough. But if zero of the car is mine, I'm just your agent, the other guy can say, I don't know who you are. Get out of here. If this agent decides to chop the car for himself after he goes to court, and the judge says, yes, you're right, you did a great job representing Ruvain, now Shimon, the agent, could go and grab the entire car. The Ben Ish Chai says, not necessarily in the sugya, but in general, he brings a story where it could be a Ma'aseh Chaya. There was a guy that was a very wealthy guy. He owned ships, cruise ships. He owned ships. And he didn't have anybody to inherit him. And he had a very good friend. And when this guy was nifter, he passed away, his very good friend wanted to inherit him. There's nobody, it was either him or the government. Now, I'm not going into the halacha. Does the government have the right to take it? Do you have the right to take it? When it comes to taxes, these kind of things, then the government has the right. There's certain things that the government makes up. Says, oh, if he dies, I take it all. Why? I don't know. Azoy. So we're not going into that part of the halacha. Wherever, I don't know what country it was in. So it was in probably some Muslim country where the Ben Ish Chai lived. So he decided that he wants to take all his belongings before the government finds out. So he goes to one of his very good friends in Shul, this genius kind of guy, and he tells his friend, listen, help me out over here. I have an inn over here. There's millions sitting around here, and I want it. His friend says, no problem, I'll help you out. This is what we're going to do. We're going to pretend that I'm this ship owner guy, and I'm going to scream out a tzava, we're going to write a tzava, and then he suddenly dies, we'll bury him, and then you take all the money. The guy says, okay, great idea. So the guy lays down in the bed over there, goes to his house, and he starts screaming, and people were there, and okay, move. Nobody could see. And basically, what this guy, the good friend with the great Eitzah did, is he wrote all the belongings of this wealthy guy to himself, and left the guy that came up with this whole idea, left him with, 1,000 ruble, with nothing. So it says the Ben Ish Chai that it's a taiva in life. Never rely on your good friends when it comes to business. Always be wary. You never know who's going to take you for a little ride. There's always somebody out there that wants to get you. And here's the Gemara. I send my friend as an agent to go to court and fight on my behalf to save my car. So he goes and does a great job, and then he takes the car for himself. That's what it says over here. He didn't write it down. He's meant to write it down. If he didn't write it down, he took it and What do you mean? Why didn't you write it down? We didn't write it down. The Moses need to write it down. No, the Gemara, Rabbi says, as long as he's in it for a part, he has a quarter, so he could go to town, he could go and fight for you. And if he wins, and he grabs it for himself, we don't take it away from him. Or even the quarter, let's say. I put you in the game, I gave you a quarter so you could represent me, not so you should take it. By the way, you remind me of something, Givaldik. We're talking about lawyers here. Somebody went to a lawyer and asked the lawyer, how much do you charge? So the lawyer says, $100 for 3 questions. So the guy says, you don't think that's expensive? He says, that's very expensive. And what's your 3rd question? Rosh Koila, you only get 1 question here for free. Rav Ashi Omar, even the Kasule, called him is Ani Mendino Kavalas Alai. Since you write inside, if he writes inside, anything that you have, any kind of expense, your traveling expenses, the fuel, your restaurant expense by the court, everything is upon me, the original owner. Shliach Shavye. So then he made him a shliach. He's not a partner, he's a shliach. No, even if he's going to pay for his expenses, he's still a partner. And therefore, if I made you a partner, Mr. Agent, then you could take half. Or grab half. He's grabbing half. If I just made you an agent, a shliach, you get 0. The halacha is that a power of attorney creates an agent, a shliach, and therefore you don't get even half. You can't grab anything. So just to see it one last time.
What's this for? Why Michal is different than karka?
Because it's not in your possession. That's based on Rabbi Yochanan, that anything that's not by you, you're the owner. But you're so little of an owner that you can't even make it hegdish. You can't even be mafkirit. That was yesterday's sugya. If it's not in your house, if it's not under your control, yes, it's yours. But this computer, some guy that stole it is running around in in the Bronx with your computer. You're not a real bailam on it. You don't have any control on it. You don't have control halachically. You can't be mafkir. You can't.
I'm talking about having the
Yeah. Where's this computer? You want me to fight on your behalf on this computer, but he's holding it. It's not. You don't have control on the computer, so you can't. By power of attorney means you're giving me ownership over this computer. Who are you to give me ownership? You don't own it. You own it, but he's holding it. When you don't have control on your car, some other guy has control on your car, then you cannot transfer ownership. That's the whole nekuda here. Unless.
Example would be the art school of Bava, third volume in Hebrew.
Who? What? The Bava, third volume, yeah, Hebrew, what?
Would be a better example.
Somebody took it?
You said a long time ago that someone took it and you never brought it back. So check it out.
You checked it out. It's gone? If you have Bava, third volume, return it immediately. We're coming up to Bava, third volume. But very good. Thanks for remembering that. That's what he's saying? No, he wants to say that I don't have a right to have. I'm going to make you a shliach now to go get the gemara from the guy. Do I have the right? No, it's finished. It's over. It's in his rishus. Anyway, should we say now Barabim that if he's learning Torah from it, we'll give him the zchus of it at least? Or since he stole it? I have a feeling it's you. You like those blue gemaras. Be like the Chofetz Chaim. Wow. So if I want to be like the Chofetz Chaim, we'll do it without screaming out. No, we'll do it that nobody knows. A tanua.
I guess what really happened in that story.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We're not going to go back to that.
That's funny. If he was Michael, somebody said that. The Chofetz Chaim said, I don't want you to take my things. I'm Michael.
Oh, once he took it.
Yeah, he said, I don't want you to take
Says the Heilige Mishnah. Gonav al pi shnayim. I'm going to read this line. Tell me if you see an issue with this line. A guy stole an item and 2 people witnessed that he stole it. So what? He's chayiv now, kefal. V'tovach u'mochar, he either shechted it or he sold it al PM. Those 2 edim saw that he shechted or sold. Oy al pi shnayim acherim, or 2 other edim saw that he sold it or shechted it. Mishalem tashlumi arba v'chamisha. He has to pay 4 times the amount. That's the halacha we learned many times. Is there a problem over here? Does anybody see an issue? Is there a chiddush here? The chiddush is, it's not the same edim. It's not the same edim. Perhaps in order to be chayiv 4, you need the same edim to testify that the person stole it and the person shechted it. If you're going to testify that you saw somebody shecht an animal, perhaps he shechted his own animal. The fact that he shechted an animal doesn't make him chayiv 4. You have to come on to the fact that he's also a ganav. So that's another testimony. He's a ganav, and then he went and he shechted it. Do they have to be from the same edim, the same testimony? Or maybe not. So when you read the Mishnah, you don't really see that there's an issue here. But in fact, it's a machlokes. Gonav u'mochar b'Shabbos. Oh, Rabbi said this is the famous concept of kam le b'derabinei. That what? Kim le b'derabinei, kam le b'derabinei. You can read it any way you want. In yeshiva, they say kim le b'derabinei. In the article, they say, Kom le b'derabbanei. Kitzer. Kill b'derabbanei. Meaning, if a person is chayiv misa, he did something in a very, he shot somebody to death, so he's chayiv misa, he's a killer. So we cannot force him to pay for the shirt that he ruined with the bullet. Why? Because he's getting the death penalty. We can't. So if a guy shechts an animal on Shabbos, he's chayiv misa for shechting. So we cannot force him to pay the four-time amount because you don't get the death penalty and pay at the same time. But if you sell something on Shabbos, which also makes you pay 4 times the amount, selling on Shabbos doesn't give you the death penalty. It's not Issa Deraisa like that you get the death penalty. So therefore, Gonav Umachar b'Shabbos, you would be chayiv daled vehi. So what is the case, Rabbi said, that if you sell something on Shabbos, you'd be chayiv misa and therefore not have to pay daled vehi? The Gemara comes up with 2 ideas. It's a riddle. How is it possible that a person sells something and that makes him chayiv misa? And because he's chayiv misa, he doesn't have to pay the daled vehi. Huh? You don't pay. You only pay daled vehi on a sheep and a cow. He stole it, and he sold something to Avodah Zarah. Selling to Avodah Zarah is bad, but it's not doing Avodah Zarah. It's selling to Avodah Zarah. You're not chayiv misa for that. So he's still chayiv daled vehi. Gonav v'tovach b'yoyim kippurim. Somebody stole, and he decided to shecht it on Yom Kippur. Rasha Merusha. Here, have a picture, Gevaldik. He's in his kittel, he's going to shul. He has the knife, he's ready to steal. I told you, one of my best friends, Loya Lenu, came to us on Shabbos. He said, this year I ate on Yom Kippur. He was so proud of himself that he ate treif on Yom Kippur. He's telling me, like, it was the year that he decided not to be frum anymore. This guy, on Yom Kippur, I'm going to shecht an animal, we're going to barbecue it and eat it. Oh, can be mamish the greatest Rosh ever. But he's not chayiv misa in Bezdin. He's chayiv misa b'lishamayim kares. So he's not absolved from the daled vehe. When he shechted it on Yom Kippur, he still has to pay the 4, 5. Gona mishala new halacha that's not negeya. I see the oil mamish likes this picture. No, it's kind of fine. If the oil thinks that AI does this, it doesn't. It can't. No, seriously, you can't. There's no. What are you looking at me? You don't believe it? You cannot. If anybody could produce this picture in AI by giving prompts to AI, I give him $100,000 today. Simple. I mean, now that you take this picture, it doesn't work like that. No, you cannot tell AI. We'll give him a white kittel and a look like a ganav, and he's wearing tchelis, and it doesn't work like that. Oh no, his mom is going to get him. Yeah, exactly. You don't. Now you're choshev b'ksherim. I know it's leather. Maybe it's fake leather. Okay. So says the Gemara says the Mishnah. Another case: a guy steals from his own father and he does tvichu mechira. He's chayiv dal v'heid. But then a minute later, the father dies. So he yarshins it. But he has brothers. So does he pay the dal v'heid to the brothers or not? Then he has to pay his brothers. Why? Because the chiyuv of him to pay the dal v'hei happened before his father died. If he stole and he shechted the animal and then he made it hegdish, if he made it, it was hegdish first and then he did tficha. That's the next Mishnah on Ayin Daled that says that you don't pay dal v'hei. Why? Because he's shechting something that's hegdish. But over here, the hegdish came after he shechted, so he does have to pay dal v'hei. So Rabbi Isai goes like this: if a person takes a gun and kills the sheep, is he chayiv daled v'hei? He killed the sheep. Is he chayiv daled v'hei? But he killed it with a gun. No, you only chayiv daled v'hei when you shechted. Halachically, it's a kosher animal. So what if he shechted it for medicine, l'refuah, or to feed to his dogs? It's a good shechita, but I didn't want to eat it. Still chayiv daled v'hei. Hashoichet v'nimtzis treifa. But what if he shechted it? But it's not even kosher. Why? Because there's a giant hole in the heart. Yishkoich, Rabbi. Weissfish. For sending me the picture, but I couldn't get it in here for technical reasons. Maybe we'll put it up later. Yosef, you saw the picture you sent of the heart with the hole in it? Huh? Look at this picture of the guy with the kittel. Not this guy. Yeah. I know what you're saying. Look at that picture. Or Oh, we have here Sheikhul Chulma Azar. It's not Mamish Azara. Azar is the top. This is more as a snashim. But the point is, a guy brings it. You're not allowed to shech chulin, something that's not a carbon. You're not allowed to shech inside the Beis Hamikdash. She did that, so you're not allowed to eat it. Mishan teshlum arba v'chamisha. But it's not edible. It's a treif. It has a hole in its heart. It's not edible. It's you shech in the Azar. Shimon says that if you shechted a treifa and chulin ba'azara where you cannot eat it, so it's not a real shechita. Yes, you did a kosher shechita, you shechted with a knife, but it's not edible. Not edible. You don't pay 4 and 5. Says the Gemara. It seems like it's not like Rebbe Kiva. The Rebbe Kiva Amar davar v'loy chatzi davar. The pasuk says apish shnei edim apish leisha edim yakum davar. It should say apish leisha edim yakum. What's davar? A thing. So it has to be a full thing. V'loy chatzi davar. The sanya. What does that mean? So the Gemara explains beautifully. Amar Rabbi Yosef. Kishaholach Abba, when my father chalafta, I'm just saying, my father chalafta. So over here, someone approved that if you give him a title and you say Reb, you could say your father's name. Abba chalafta etzel Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri limud Torah. He went to learn Torah. V'amrilo Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri etzel Abba chalafta. Some say it's the opposite. They came to my father. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri came to my father to learn Torah. Daf Amud Beis, sponsored by Greg Haber for the success and the return of our chayalim and the hostages and zchusim for Klal Yisroel. You know what? Be'ezer Hashem, the Olam should daven that this week should be the week of tremendous psuras tovas. That all, not all, I don't know if we can say all, but the hostages should come back and they should get those terrible heads, whatever their names. I'm not going to say the names here, but that they should do it. And they come this week. Be'ezer Hashem. Amar Loi. This is the famous case, not a new case. The case of Chazaka. If I don't have a document to say that I own this field, so all these sugis and Bava Basra, if I sit on that piece of land for 3 years and I have Adim that testify I was there for 3 years, I don't have to bring any proof, it's mine. But what if I divide the 3 years with 3 sets of Adim? Year number 1 is one set, year number 2 is another set. Do they combine together? What does everybody say? Should, why not? That's what Abba Chalafta said. It's great. Nice try. I agree with you. This is not a joke. Rebbe Kiva, the Gadol Adar, maybe the greatest Jew that ever lived. Each set of Edim are only testifying about a third of the Chazaka. This one says year 1. It's a third, and you have to testify on the entire thing, not on a third. Amar Abaya, Rabbi said, I don't know if you noticed, we're doing beautiful sugis here, mamish, geschmack alumdus and stuff, one after another. Amar Abaya, filu tamer Rebbe Kiva. Let's go like Rebbe Kiva. Milay Madi Rebbe Kiva b'shnai moirim kiddush b'shnai moirim ba. Think about it. If you have 2 witnesses that say that a woman was mizana, are they testifying in a whole situation or only in a half? Why? In order to testify that one was mizana, you need to testify that she's married. So were they at the chasana? Elamai, you're going to use the 2 edim that were under the chuppah. So now it's a davar v'chatzi davar. So no, Abai says even Rebbe Kiva would admit that you don't need to testify from the beginning of her marriage till the znus. Only you need to testify is just the znus. The guys at the end that saw this nus, they need somebody to testify she's married. However, but the Eidim that were on the chuppah, their job is done. That minute, they saw a kedushin, they could testify on a whole item, on a davar. It's a complete davar. We're testifying that she just got married, that she's mikudeshes. So Mela, if part of the Eidim, the first kat Eidim have a davar karina bey. You're right that the second Eidim need to come on to the first Eidim that this animal was stolen. The Eidim that say that it was shechted have to come on to the Eidim that say that it was stolen. However, the first Eidim don't need the second Eidim. So the first set of Eidim testified a full testimony that this animal was stolen by Reuven. Now you have another cat of Eidim say that Reuven shechted it, and that's fine. Even Rebbe Kiva would agree, says Abaya. V'Rabbanon, but Rebbe Chalafta that says, forget Rebbe Kiva. Rebbe Chalafta who says that I could take 3 sets of Eidim and put them together, and together we have a Chazaka. So why does he need the word davar? The word davar is extra. What's davar? Davar I need according to Rebbe Kiva, it has to be a full thing. But according to Rebbe Chalafta, you don't need a full edus, even a third. A set of Edom say he was there in 1999, that's enough. And the next set says 2000, that's also enough. When it comes to a child becoming a gadol, whether a boy or a girl, they have to be a certain age, 12 or 13. Besides, they have to have simanim, 2 cyrus, 2 hairs. So, typically speaking, even today, a kid wants to get up to the Amud, he's 13 years old, just had his bar mitzvah. So we say, oh, he has chazak, he has shtei cyrus. But if he wants to do something midai raisa, he wants to be moitzi somebody in Kiddush, or a better example is, let's say he's selling a sroigim in the street, I cannot buy an esrog from a child. So I want to say, oh, he's a gadol. I don't know that he's a gadol. So maybe I can't be yoitza and esrog from him. So I need Eidim to testify that has simanim. But more important, let's say this girl, she got married on her own. She accepted kiddushin. Let's say she did something that she deserves malchus. Oinchim. How do I know she's a gdoila? I need Eidim. So 1:8 says, I saw, Rashi says on her knuckle. Whether Rashi means literally or is using it as a mashal, the point is that Eidim saw one Sara, one here, on one part of her body. And the other set of Eidim saw on another part. Do they combine or not? It's like 1 year of chazaka and a second year of chazaka. So in this case, two different places. Hai chetzi davar, says the Gemara, but that's not true. I don't need a pasuk for that. Why? Hai chatzi davar, v'chatzi eidusu. You have 1 aid on one here, and 1 aid on another here. That's like 1 aid on year 1, and another aid on year 2. They don't combine. You need 2 aidim on every single thing. Oh, so you're right, says the Gemara, so let's fix it a little bit. 2 aidim said, we saw 1 on her back, 1 on the front, 1 on her knuckle, whatever it is. The point is, 2 different areas. We didn't see 2. Each one saw 1. Do they combine for simanim? The point is, says the Gemara, Hani Amrik Tanehi, Vani Amrik Tanehi. Each 2 aidim say that she's actually a ketana, not a gdoila. You want to combine the 2. That doesn't work. You have testimony that she's a ketana because there's many ketanis out there that have 1 siman. So the fact that I'm testifying that she had 1 siman, that's nothing. That means that I'm testifying she's a ketana. The big question is that we have to understand, and this, in yeshiva, I'm sure they sit and they work this out for weeks. What's the difference between the 2 cases? You have a case where 1:8 said, 2 aidim say 1 here, 2 aidim say another here. That's 2. Over here you have another case. 2 aidim say year 1 of chazaka, 2 aidim say year 2 of chazaka. Oh, that works. The 2 heres don't work. Why not? So you have all the Rishonim to talk about it. Taisus brings 2 tirutzim that need explanation. One teretz is that, in fact, when 2 aidim say 1 year, they accomplished something. They accomplished that if it comes out that he was there and it's not his, he has to pay for the whole year that he ate all that fruit. There's an accomplishment. When you testify 1 year, it's 0. If you add the Ramban to it, the Ramban says that 1 here, a lot of ketanas have 1 here. So the testimony that there's 1 here is a 0. The testimony of 1 year out of 3 is 1/3. It's not a 0. You can't say, I testified on 1 year, it's a 0. No, in order to get the 3 years, I need 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So each year is a 1/3 of it. 1 here is not a half, 1 here is 0. Okay, you have to look into it, we have to understand it better, and we're doing Daf Yomi and we're moving on. So, this is the beautiful riddle. How's it possible a person sells something on Shabbos and he's chayv misa? Vatanya, because in our mission it says that if you sell on Shabbos, you still have to pay dal v'hei because you're not chayv misa. Vatanya, but it says in the Bryce of Potter, you chayv misa, you potter. How's it possible? And the Bryce is talking about a special case. How is it possible a guy sold and he's potter from dal v'hei because he's chayv misa in Bezdin? The potter ba'omer loy akoitzel chatainu mitei nasi. We have a beautiful picture here. The guy in the hat owns a fig tree. The guy in the robber suit owns a stolen sheep. They want to trade on Shabbos. The guy in the hat wants the sheep. In return, he's going to let him pick one fig. So the Ganav goes and picks a fig. The moment that he picks the fig, he's chayiv misa. Why? Because he picked a fig on Shabbos. You're not allowed to pick a fig on Shabbos. He's chayiv misa. But also that sold the sheep. That made a mechira. I sold the sheep. Why? I got paid with a fig. I sold the sheep for a fig, so I just got paid. The moment I got paid, I'm chayiv misa. I don't have to pay dal v'hei. They take one fig, and by you taking the fig, that's the payment for your sheep, for your gneva. Amri, so the Gemara says that doesn't work. What if the ganav is a ganav, and he says, "I took your fig, and I'm not going to give you the sheep." A fig, they say in Yiddish. A fig, yeah. I'm not giving it to you. The Bezdin is going to say, "I'm sorry, we can't enforce the sale." The mechay ben afshayu, because you chayiv misa for taking the fig off the tree. Homachiri nami lav mechiri. Says the Gemara, if I cannot enforce this in Bezdin, if Bezdin cannot enforce the sale, then it's not a sale. And if it's not a sale, then I don't have a case where I sold something and I'm chayiv misa and I don't have to pay dal v'hei. Then there's no dal v'hei at all because it was never sold. I'm chayiv misa because I picked the fig off the tree, but I don't have a case where there's a sale and a dal v'hei. Look at this, Rabbi Isai. Finally, we have, this might be the second time, but where the 3D is actually going to help to understand the sugya. A guy tells the Ganav, toss this animal. It could only be an animal. The guy has to be a strong Ganav. Toss the animal, because it's only about a sheep and a bull. Toss the animal into my chutzner. When the animal crosses the borderline of the chutzner, your backyard acquires stuff for you. Where? It doesn't have to land in midair as it crosses the fence. When it comes to Hilchas Shabbos, in order for me to be chayiv mid'oraisa and chayiv misa, I have to carry. How do I carry? I have to do akira and anacha. I have to lift something up in Rishus HaYachid and place it down in Rishus HaRabim. Or pick something up in Rishus HaRabim and put it down in Rishus HaYachid. The question is, when it goes over the fence, that guy acquired it. He bought my sheep. When was I over on the Chilul Shabbos? When it lands. So how do I have a situation where I'm chayiv miso in midair? When it's in midair, how am I chayiv miso? According to Rabbi Akiva, the kluta kemishuncha, as it's flying midair, it already is as if it landed, and at that moment there's also a kinyan. So here's a case where I sold something, and I'm chayiv misa at the same exact second. Rabbi Sai, here's the video. Check this out.
Hey there, throw me the cow and I'll fill you good.
Oh, so he threw the cow, and at that moment that it crossed the fence, two things happened simultaneously. He was chayiv misa because he just did akira. He lifted up and threw it. It landed. At that moment, it landed halachically because as if it landed. And he's also chayiv. He also sold it to the guy. The guy acquired it. So here you have a mechira that happens at the same exact time as the Chilul Shabbos, where it's chayiv misa, and therefore in this case he's patur from Dalet and hey. Take a look. It continues. And then it lands. But it doesn't have to land halachically in order to be chayiv misa, according to Rabbi Akiva. Kiman says the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva, it goes according to Rabbi Akiva that says that it's as if it landed. Dikra Rabbanon, Kiva Damati, L'chotzer Beis Kana. But Rabbanon have a problem. Why? Because once it crosses the fence, the sale happened. But Linyan Shabbos, 3 seconds later, when it lands, that's when he's chayiv misa. They don't happen simultaneously. Says the Gemara, it does happen simultaneously. We're talking about a Ganav that's a tremendous lamdin and Talmud Chacham and went through 3 cycles of Daf Yomi and knows the sugya. And he wants to get out of his 4 and 5. Well, he tells the guy, listen, I'm no fool. I'm not going to pick up. First of all, he's one of the strongest men alive. He could take an animal and throw it over a fence. But second of all, he's also a big Talmud Chacham. She says, oh, I don't want it to be kaina like it usually is kaina when it crosses the line. I want it only to be kaina when it lands. So when it lands, that's when I'm Michal Shabbos, according to Rabbanu, because it has to land, and that's when the sale happens. Until it lands. Listen to this, Rabbi, this is a beautiful piece over here. The first case was, let's go back. What time is it for real? Okay, we started late because of Chodesh. 2 more minutes. The Chassidish guy has a fig tree, and he says, "You take a fig and sell me your animal on Shabbos." What do you say? It's not enforceable in court, and since it's not enforceable in court, it's not a real sale. Says the Gemara, I'll bring you a raya, something one of the worst stories in all of Shas, which is not enforceable in court. It's such a bad story, but if you pay, you do payment at the end. It's a good payment. There's a real sale here. What happened? A guy was mezana with his own mother, and he paid her for it. Is that esnan zoyna or not esnan zoyna? The Torah says you cannot take a payment for znus and buy a carbon with it. She's a nice person. She took her payment, went and bought a carbon to do tshuva. Doesn't work. Can't buy a carbon. Now, is that enforceable? If they went to court, if she sued her son in court for that payment, what would the court do? They would laugh her out of court. It's not enforceable in court yet. If the son does pay her, it is esnan. So you see, it doesn't have to be enforceable in court. So too by us. Even though this whole Shabbos thing is not enforceable in court, but what if he did pay him the fig and there was a sale with the sheep? It is a sale on Shabbos, and he's chayiv misa on Shabbos at the same exact time, and he's potter from the dalvei. Let's see it inside. Esnan also Torah afilu vafilu ba'alimai, even with his own mother. V'tova leikama bedina. If she took him to court, the court won't say you have to pay. Even if she sues him, you don't have to pay. But if he does pay her, it is considered esnan. So too, since the whole thing happened on Shabbos, the laugh him out of court. But since he did make a sale, they made a trade. You get the sheep and I get the fig. Have a mechira. It's not a matana, it's a real mechira. Explains Taisvus. Because minashamayim, you still owe the person money. Even though it's not enforceable in court, minashamayim you owe money. So if I paid you to be mekayim my chiyuv minashamayim, it's a real sale and not a matana. Rabbi say, have a wonderful chodesh, a good given shior, psuras toivus, shir amalis. Shir amalis, b'mamakim grosicho adinoi. Adinoi, shema b'koilit, yenos decha kashuva, is the koi dachanoi. Im avoynois tishmorio, adinoi miamoi. Mikim chasicho, lemanti vorei. Kivisi adinoi kivso nafshi, b'ledvroi, cholti. Nafshi ladinoi, mishomrim laboiker, shomrim laboiker. Yachei Yisrael ladinoi, kim adinoi, yachesed, varbei moifedus. Vehu yivdas Yisrael, mikol avonoi sov. Chen go Yisrael, and it's over Shivyo. When the Binyomin Airley, Shamokim Rachem Aleim, and Sim Sov Levachim Afeilo, Mishin B'Gulo, Hashlov Amilot B'Kore, V'Rimar Omein.